All right, so today let's dive into this research paper, and
Okay.
it's on MarketSenseAI 2.0.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it uses like this really advanced AI. It's called large language models
Okay.
to like analyze stocks,
Interesting.
and it tells you if you should like buy or hold or sell. And the paper says that it beat the S&P 500.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So I know finance can sometimes be a little dry,
Yeah.
but trust me, this is way more interesting than just like your average spreadsheet.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's definitely not just like a typical number crunching system.
Yeah.
What makes MarketSense AI 2.0 so cool is that it tries to mimic the way a human analyst would approach investing,
Okay.
but it has this added power of being able to process just tons of information all at the same time.
So it's like having a super analyst like in your pocket.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away, can you give us a little background on why this kind of approach is even necessary?
Yeah. So traditional stock analysis methods, they often fall short because they tend to focus on limited data, like just looking at past stock prices or like really simple financial ratios.
Okay.
But there's a whole world of information out there
Yeah.
that could be relevant to a stock.
Right.
News articles, expert opinions, global trends, the company's own statements.
Yeah.
It's just way too much for any one human to process.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does MarketSense AI 2.0 handle all of this data? Does it just like throw it all into this giant AI blender and hope for the best?
No, not exactly. It uses a system of specialized AI agents,
Right.
each with its own specific job, to break down this really complex problem into more manageable pieces.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these AI agents.
Okay.
What kind of tasks are we talking about?
So one agent, it's called the news agent,
Okay.
and it's constantly scanning news sources for anything relevant to a particular stock.
Interesting.
It's like imagine having a personalized news feed that only shows you the articles that could affect the companies you're interested in.
That's pretty cool. So it's like a hyper-focused news aggregator, but for stocks.
Exactly.
I like it. What else do we have?
Then we have the fundamentals agent,
Okay.
which is all about the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It dives deep into a company's financial statements, analyzes things like their profitability, how much debt they have, all of those financial ratios
Okay.
that investors love.
So it's like a financial detective, but instead of a magnifying glass, it's using AI algorithms.
Exactly.
So what kind of information is it getting from these financial statements?
It's not just about the raw numbers, though. It goes a step further and actually reads and summarizes the company's own statements about their strategy and risks and future outlook
Oh, wow.
from SEC filings.
Okay.
And it even analyzes what the executives say during earnings calls.
Hold on. It's actually listening to the earnings calls.
Yes.
And understanding what's being said.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. How does it even process that kind of information?
That's where those large language models come in.
Okay.
They're designed to understand and analyze human language.
So it means they can pick up on nuances and subtle cues that might be missed by more traditional methods.
So it's not just looking at keywords.
Right.
It's understanding the context and the sentiment behind what's being said.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
What other agents are part of the system?
We also have a dynamics agent,
Okay.
which is all about price action.
Mm-hmm.
So this agent looks at how a stock's price has moved
Okay.
compared to its competitors and the overall market,
Okay.
essentially mapping its dance moves over time.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we've got news analysis, financial analysis, and price analysis. What's next?
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
We have a macroeconomic agent
Okay.
that analyzes reports from leading economists and institutions to get a handle on the bigger picture stuff,
Okay.
looking at things like inflation, interest rates, global trends, all those forces that can impact the entire market.
So it's like connecting the dots between individual companies and the global economic landscape. That's a level of analysis that I think most people don't even think about.
Right.
But how do all these separate analyses actually come together to make an investment recommendation?
That's the role of the signal agent.
Okay.
It acts like the conductor of an orchestra, taking in the insights from all these different agents,
Okay.
synthesizing them into a final decision,
Mm-hmm.
buy, hold, or sell.
And this is where the AI really shines, right?
Yeah.
It can process all this complex information and make a judgment call, just like a human analyst would.
Exactly. And what's even more impressive is the system explains its reasoning.
Okay.
It's not just a black box spitting out recommendations.
Right.
It lays out the logic behind its decisions.
Okay. I'm sold on the concept, but the real question is how well does it actually work? Let's get to those results you mentioned earlier.
All right, so they tested MarketSenseAI 2.0 on 2 major stock indexes.
Okay.
The S&P 100, which tracks 100 of the largest U.S. companies,
Okay.
and the S&P 500, which is even broader. It includes 500 companies.
So these are pretty representative samples of the U.S. stock market? Yes.
What kind of performance did they see?
Over a 2-year period, from 2023 to 2024, the system achieved a remarkable 125.9% return on the S&P 100.
Wow, that is remarkable.
Yeah.
How does that compare to the actual performance of the S&P 100 itself?
The S&P 100 only had a return of 73.5% over that same period.
Okay.
So MarketSenseAI significantly outperformed the index.
Okay, that's a huge difference. Was it just taking on a ton of risk to achieve those kinds of returns?
Yeah.
I mean, higher returns usually come with higher risk, right?
Right. That's a great question. And it's something the researchers were really careful to address.
Okay.
They looked at a metric called the Sortino ratio,
Okay.
which basically measures how much return you get for each unit of downside risk you take.
So it's not just about how much money you make, it's about how much risk you're taking to make that money.
Exactly. And what's impressive is that MarketSenseAI's risk-adjusted performance was actually better than the benchmark.
Okay.
So it wasn't just gambling on risky stocks.
Okay.
It was making smart, calculated decisions. So it wasn't just about luck or taking crazy risks. It was actually making better decisions.
Exactly.
And what about when they tested it on the larger S&P 500? Did it still perform well?
Yes, it also did very well on the S&P 500,
Okay.
achieving a strong return with excellent risk-adjusted performance.
Okay.
So this suggests that it's not just a fluke or limited to a small set of stocks. It's a system that can handle a large and diverse market.
This is all incredibly impressive, but I have to ask, how is it actually achieving these results? What's the secret sauce here? Did the researchers dig into that at all?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They conducted what's called a factor analysis to understand what was driving the system's performance.
Now, hold on a second. Can you explain what factor analysis means in plain English?
Sure, it's basically a way to figure out what specific investment styles
Okay.
or characteristics are contributing to a portfolio's returns.
Okay.
So, for example, is it picking stocks that are undervalued by the market?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it betting on stocks with strong momentum, meaning their prices are already trending upwards?
Okay, so it's like breaking down the recipe for success.
Exactly.
What did they find? Was it just picking the right kinds of stocks?
It turns out that MarketSenseAI is doing something pretty interesting.
Okay.
It seems to be combining a couple of different investment approaches.
Okay.
It has a bit of a value approach,
Okay.
meaning it's looking for stocks that might be undervalued by the market.
Like hidden gems that everyone else is overlooking.
Exactly. But it also incorporates a momentum approach,
Okay.
which means it's identifying stocks that are showing strong price trends and riding that wave.
So it's like a dynamic duo of investment strategies.
Right.
But if I'm understanding correctly, it's not just those traditional factors that are explaining its success. There's something more going on here.
You're catching on quickly.
Okay.
The researchers found that a good chunk of its outperformance can't be explained by those typical factors alone.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really exciting.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. What kind of something unique are we talking about here? Is it magic? Is it reading the minds of CEOs? What's going on?
Well, remember how we talked about the fundamentals agent analyzing all of those SEC filings and earnings call transcripts?
Yes.
The researchers took a closer look at the impact of adding those sources to the mix.
Okay.
And the results were fascinating.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me more.
They did what's called a sentiment analysis,
Okay.
which essentially measures the overall positive or negative tone of the language
Okay.
being used in those documents.
Yeah?
And what they found was that incorporating those extra sources actually made the overall sentiment a bit less positive,
Really?
especially when the financials alone looked really good.
Wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Wouldn't having more information, especially from the company itself, make things seem more positive, more data, more insights, more reason to be optimistic?
That's a really good point, and it highlights the nuance that MarketSenseAI is bringing to the table.
Okay.
See, SEC filings often highlight risks and potential problems. That wouldn't be obvious just from looking at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're required to disclose those things, even if they're trying to present a positive spin.
So it's like reading the fine print, but for companies.
Exactly. And those earnings calls,
Yeah.
well, executives might say things that hint at future challenges,
Okay.
or their tone of voice might betray a lack of confidence, even if they're putting on a brave face for the public.
So it's like MarketSense AI is reading between the lines, picking up on those subtle cues that humans might miss or might be tempted to ignore when they're excited about a company's potential.
Right.
It's actually incorporating a healthy dose of caution by considering a company's own warnings and the nuanced language used by its leadership.
That's right. And you know what? In about 5% of cases,
Okay.
adding this extra information actually changed the final investment recommendation.
Wow, that's huge.
It is.
So it's making different decisions than it would have if it was just looking at the numbers.
Easy.
This is where I start to see the real power of this approach. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about understanding the story behind those numbers.
Absolutely.
But what does all of this mean for the average investor? What are the big takeaways here?
Well, that's what we'll explore further in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've established that MarketSenseAI 2.0 is this amazing system that uses AI to analyze stocks and make investment recommendations. And it's not just some theoretical concept. It's actually been tested and has outperformed the market.
Right.
But I think the question on everyone's mind is, what does this mean for us, the everyday investors?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? This research really suggests that AI could fundamentally change how we approach investing.
Yeah.
And it's not just about replacing human analysts altogether. It's about giving them superpowers.
Superpowers, though. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
But seriously, how do you see this playing out in the real world?
Well, think about it. Imagine being able to connect the dots between news financial statements, expert opinions, and global trends all in real time.
Yeah.
That's the kind of advantage that MarketSense AI is pointing towards. It's like having a team of analysts.
Right.
Working around the clock, constantly synthesizing information and providing insights that would be impossible for a human to grasp on their own.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not about eliminating the human element. It's about augmenting it.
Exactly.
But I have to admit, when I hear about AI investing, I still get a little nervous. I think a lot of people have this image of robots taking over Wall Street, making all the decisions, and leaving humans out of the loop.
Yeah, I understand that concern. It's a common fear when we talk about AI, but it's important to remember that AI is a tool.
Okay.
It's like having a superpowered calculator for the financial world. It can do incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's still up to humans to decide how to use it.
So it's not about replacing humans. It's about empowering them to make better decisions.
Exact. Think about it like this. Doctors use AI to help them diagnose diseases. But they don't just blindly follow the AI's recommendations.
Right.
They use their own knowledge, experience, and judgment to make the final call.
Okay, that's a good analogy. It's about combining the best of both worlds.
Right.
The human element with its intuition, creativity, and understanding of nuance.
Yeah.
And the AI element with its ability to process massive amounts of data and spot patterns that we might miss.
Precisely. And that actually leads to a really intriguing question. What if we could go even further?
Okay.
What if AI could help us build investment portfolios that are not just profitable,
Okay.
but also aligned with our personal values and beliefs?
Whoa, hold on. You're talking about ethical investing, but on a whole new level.
Yeah, imagine being able to tell an AI system, hey, I'm really concerned about climate change, so I don't want to invest in companies that contribute to pollution. Or I'm really passionate about education, so I want to prioritize companies that are making a difference in that area.
You're blowing my mind here. So instead of just chasing profits, we could use AI to invest in companies that are actually making the world a better place.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? And it's not as far-fetched as it might sound.
Yeah.
We already have AI systems that can analyze text and understand sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
We have systems that can crunch financial data. And we're getting better at incorporating ethical considerations into AI algorithms.
Okay, so you're saying it's not just a pipe dream, it's something that could actually be within reach?
It is.
But how realistic is this really? Are we talking about something that's years away, or is this something that could happen sooner than we think?
Well, it's certainly come from a challenge.
Right.
But the building blocks are already there. It's more than just putting the pieces together, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's about defining what those values and beliefs actually mean in a quantifiable way.
Okay.
How do you measure a company's impact on climate change?
Right.
How do you assess their commitment to social justice?
Yeah.
These are tough questions, but they're not insurmountable.
It seems like there's a huge opportunity here, not just for investors, but for the world as a whole. If we can harness the power of AI to align financial incentives with positive social and environmental outcomes, we could see a real shift in how businesses operate and how capital is allocated.
Absolutely. It has the potential to transform the way we think about investing
Yeah.
and the role that capital plays in society.
Okay, I'm officially on board with this AI-powered future.
Great.
But let's step back for a second and be realistic. Every new technology comes with potential risks, right?
Yes, definitely.
What are some of the things we should be thinking about as we venture into this brave new world of AI investing?
That's a crucial point.
Hmm.
AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
So we need to be aware of the potential pitfalls
Mm-hmm.
and think carefully about how to mitigate them.
So what are some of the specific risks that we should be watching out for?
One concern is the potential for these systems to make mistakes.
Right.
No system is perfect, and AI is no exception. So what happens when the AI gets it wrong? We need to understand the limitations of these systems and have safeguards in place to minimize the potential damage if they make a bad call.
That makes sense. We can't just blindly trust the AI.
Right.
We need to have human oversight and be prepared to intervene if things go wrong. What other concerns are there?
Another important consideration is the impact on human jobs.
Okay.
If AI is doing more of the analysis and decision-making, what happens to all the people who used to do that work?
That's a big question. It's something we've seen happen in other industries as automation becomes more prevalent. Are we talking about massive job losses in the financial sector?
Well, it's not necessarily about job losses,
Okay.
but about job transformation.
Okay.
AI will undoubtedly automate some tasks that are currently done by humans, but it will also create new opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be thinking about how to retrain and upskill workers so they can thrive in this new landscape.
So it's not about humans versus machines. It's about humans and machines working together.
Exactly. It's about finding the right balance and ensuring that everyone benefits from these technological advancements.
This is a lot to think about. It's not just a technological revolution. It's a societal one, but it's exciting too.
It is.
The potential here is enormous. So what's next for MarketSenseAI? Did the researchers hint at any future directions? What are they working on now?
Well, they did mention a couple of key areas they're focusing on. First, they want to integrate even more advanced types of AI.
Okay.
Specifically, those that are better at reasoning and understanding complex relationships.
Okay, now we're talking, this system is already impressive, but what could it do with even more powerful AI under the hood?
Well, one of the limitations of current AI systems is that they can struggle with tasks that require a deep understanding of cause and effect, or that involve making inferences based on limited information.
So it's about moving beyond pattern recognition and towards something closer to human-like reasoning.
Exactly. And the second area they're exploring is expanding MarketSenseAI beyond the U.S. market.
Okay.
They want to test it on global stock markets, including those with smaller companies, to see how well it adapts to different economic environments and regulatory landscapes.
It's like taking MarketSenseAI on a world tour.
It is.
But wouldn't that be incredibly challenging? I mean, different markets have different rules, different cultures, different levels of transparency. How could AI possibly handle all of that complexity?
It's definitely a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But that's precisely what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
If they can pull it off, it would be a major step towards creating a truly global AI-powered investment system.
It's a bit mind-boggling to think about the possibilities we've gone from the nuts and bolts of how AI analyzes stocks to the potential for a more ethical and impactful way of investing. And now we're talking about a global AI-driven financial system.
We are.
Wow, so this has been an amazing deep dive, and I feel like we've covered so much ground, but I want to bring it back to our listeners for a moment. What are your thoughts on all of this? Are you excited about the potential of AI to change the way we invest, or are you a bit wary of the risks? Do you think it's really possible to build investment portfolios that are both profitable A&D aligned with our values, or is that just wishful thinking?
Those are really important questions to consider, and I think it's important to have a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology
Right.
and all the amazing things that it promises.
Yeah.
But we also need to be realistic about the challenges and the potential downsides.
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are real concerns that need to be addressed.
Right.
But I have to say, the idea of using AI to create a more ethical and impactful way of investing is incredibly appealing. It's like we're on the verge of a whole new era of finance, one where profits and purpose can actually coexist.
I agree. It's a powerful vision, and it's one that I think a lot of people are drawn to.
Yeah.
But it's going to require a lot of careful thought and effort to make it a reality.
Right.
We need to make sure we're asking the right questions, developing the right tools, and putting the right safeguards in place.
Absolutely. It's not something that's going to happen overnight,
Yeah,
but the conversation is starting, and that's a huge step in the right direction.
it is.
So for our listeners who are maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this, what's the one thing you would want them to take away from this deep dive?
I think the key takeaway is that the world of investing is changing rapidly, and AI is going to play a major role in that transformation.
Yeah.
Whether you're excited about the possibilities or a bit apprehensive about the risks, it's essential to stay informed and be prepared for what's coming.
That's great advice. Knowledge is power, as they say. And this is a topic that's worth diving deep into. We've only scratched the surface here, and there's so much more to explore.
Definitely, there are tons of resources available online, including research papers, articles, and even podcasts like this one that can help you learn more about AI and its impact on investing.
Speaking of which, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on all of this? Are you bullish on AI investing, or are you taking a more cautious approach?
Yeah, share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #DeepDiveAI.
Okay.
We might even feature some of your insights in a future episode.
And remember, as with any investment strategy, there are no guarantees. The past performance of MarketSenseAI doesn't necessarily predict future results. The market is a complex and ever-changing beast, and AI is just one tool in the investor's toolkit.
It's crucial to do your own research, understand the risks involved, and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
But one thing's for sure, the future of investing is going to be fascinating, and AI is going to play a major role. So buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild ride.
And that wraps up our deep dive into MarketSenseAI and the future of AI-powered investing. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit mind-bending.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.